Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to continue with the theme of doing wildflowers. Excuse me. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how to make buttercups. Now the leaves on them are not going to be botanically correct because I haven't got a cutter for that type of leaf, so I tried to find something that would fit some sort of way within the realms of the buttercup leaf, but it's a bit smaller. Buttercups are something that we used to be fascinated with as kids. When I was a youngster running around with my group, unlike children today, we used to get out, and I live quite near a lot of farms as well, and so a lot of my friends lived on farms, and we used to get out into nature. And the buttercup, I didn't realise how many different varieties there are of it, and there are quite a lot. And it's also related to ranunculus, so I'm assuming that buttercups must be sort of a wild form of some of the early ranunculus, because all cultivated flowers come from something that grows in the wild. The thing that used to fascinate us as kids, we used to hold a buttercup underneath our chins, and apparently if your chin shone up yellow because it was very shiny petals on it, you like butter. Whether that's true or not, it's probably just another old wives' tale, but anyway, we'll get on with it. Right, so I found it difficult finding a cutter that I could use for buttercups, so what I've used is a plunger cutter from PME. This is a small one out of the set, but I'm only going to use the cutter. I'm not using the plunger side, so we'll get on to that anyway. So what you need to do first of all is you need to colour some flower paste or porcelain, if you're working in porcelain, in a sort of a deep yellow colour. I just need to knead this a bit because it's been a few days since I've done this with doing all my bits and bats for preparing for this video. You'll also need some green paste for the calyx and the back of the flower. The reason I'm doing the flower first is because I want to let this dry before I start assembling it and doing things like the stamens and things like that. They can be done in between while your flower's drying. So I'll just put a bit of, oh, that's too much there. Put a bit of white fat on my board. Hang on, we've got a bit of colour on there. Let's just get rid of that. The trouble is when you're dusting flowers, it gets all over the place and you can't always see it until you start using your board. Bit of yellow on there, right? There's the paste. I've used egg yolk coloured flower paste for this. I think it's called, is it called egg? If I can see where I've put the pot of colour, I'll tell you what it is when I find it. It'll be there somewhere. Anyway, you need a deep yellow colour for this. Whatever you're doing, any flowers or leaves or anything like that, you need to start off with a sort of a weaker form of the colour that you intend to finish with. I've just got a bit of a cough today, so if you excuse me coughing. I'm only going to do one of these just to show you how it's done. Like I do with all my other things, I've got all my bits and pieces already made. So I'll cut the flower out, put that back into my bag of paste. Now because you've only got the sort of scallops on the edge, we need to go in a bit more with this to make the petals a bit deeper. So if you go in with your cutting wheel like that, hang on, just let me move my camera up, there we are. If you go in like that, not quite to the centre. Now I haven't cut the paste too thin either because I want to stretch this paste to get the veining into it. So once you've done that, then you can get that onto your hand and you want your silk veining tool. when I find where I've put it. What have I done with that? There it is. And then go in with your... Now you don't need to thin the edges because you're doing this, because this is going to thin your edges of your petals anyway. So if you start working on each of the petals to widen them, make sure you get right up to the very edge, and make sure that if it's going to overlap there, just lift your petal up so that you don't end up getting your petals stuck together. Move that up a little bit, up that way. That's better. And get right to the edge then. And go around and do all of your petals like that. Whoops, dropped my brushes on the floor. I'm just going to get it onto the edge of my finger, because sometimes you can work a little bit better on there. You can get petals out of the way when you're doing that as well. This is going to make the flower bigger than it was when I cut it out. A lot of cutters start off with a basic shape, and it depends on what you do with that shape once you've got it to get it as the flower petals are. Something I learnt a long time ago. Right, once you've done that, the next thing I need to do now is to make a hole in the centre, because when I've done my stamens on a wire, which I've got some cotton here, when I get hold of it, that I've already got on wires, that's going to have to go into the centre, and there's going to be tape on it and that, so make sure that the hole is big enough. So I'm just going to use the end of this just to make a hole in the very centre. So that should be big enough for the wire to go through. And then what I'm going to do then is, if I just move my, just put that to one side for a minute. If I bring all my foam over with all my bits and pieces on it, if you get the flower and then get it into the centre like that and push it down. Now it depends on how open you want your flower to be, because some are sort of more closed than others. I'm doing two different varieties, by the way, one that's got like a daisy type centre and one that's just got stamens. These are two of the varieties that I found online when I was looking for it. Leave it in there to dry. Those have overlapped a bit, so I'm just going to readjust those petals. That's it. And then you can put that to one side to dry. So the next thing that we need to come on to is the cotton. Now I'm using the yellow cotton for this because the stamens are yellow. Now these are not botanically correct, because the stamens in the centre of a buttercup are sort of a bit flat at the top, very thin, flat. Trying to do it in flower paste and make it look delicate will be very difficult. So sometimes we just have to use a bit of artistic license, as we call it in the trade, to make it look like the flower. So I'm just going to unravel some of this cotton. Go back to the end. I haven't done this for a while, but I have done it in earlier videos, and I make a lot of my stamens like this rather than using the shop pot ones. So I'm just going to go around 2 fingers like that. There we are. I've gone round 30 times. Hope you were counting. Did you keep count of what I was doing there? And I'm going to get my scissors and I'm going to cut that cotton off there, like that. Then what you want is some very thin wires. I have got some somewhere cut. I'll find where I've put them. Probably underneath there. Yes, they are. I'll just move that out of the way. The ones that I used on my flowers, I had to extend the wires because I'd cut the wires too short. But use the thinnest wire they can get hold of. So this is a 32 gauge wire. Hook that round your cotton like that. Bring your wire up. Hold the cotton straight and then twist the wire onto it. Now it depends on how many stamens you're making. It's how I'm just doing it with doing 2 with this. That's why I've only done it around 2 fingers. If you want to do more stamens, you can do by doing it around more fingers, around your whole hand, or whatever the case may be. So I'll get another 32 gauge wire. That goes at the other end, opposite end, like that. So try and keep it even. Now if you wanted to, you could make lots of stamens with this by going in between and doing some there. I'm just going to do these 2 because I can cut them down to the length that I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold those in half like that, then get my scissors, bring it up tight, and then cut through all the loops like that. So we've got lots of stamens there that can come off. Now these are too long for what I want, but you can cut them down to the length you want. Unfortunately on some of the buttercups I've done my stamens a little bit too long, and I'd already got the pollen on before I realised what I'd done when I came to put the flowers together. So think about that when you're doing your flower as to how long your stamens want to be, because they are quite short of the stamens in a buttercup. Right, so once you've done that, what you can do now is if you're going to just do stamens in the centre of your buttercup, like I've done with, let me just get hold of one. Find a good one for you, like I've done there. The stamens are all just together in sort of a clump. That's how they grow. Now with the ones with the daisy type centre in, then that's a different matter. What you need to do is to make, I think I've got one on here somewhere. Oh, there it is. You need to do a little tiny centre on the end of a wire. If I put that against my hand like that, so you can see that. And then what I've done with that, then I've got some pollen made up in light green. I'll just show you the colour that I've used here. And if you're going to do the stamens together, have I got 2 of those? Yes, I have got 2. I'll try and do both for you to show you what I've done. So for this one, I need my glue, wherever I've put it. There it is. Then just glue over the top of your centre like that, and then into your pollen. There we are. So that's the green centre for that. And for anybody that hasn't watched my videos before, all the pollen is, make it yourself, don't buy it because it's an expensive way of buying it. Just buy some ground rice or semolina into a little pot like this, put the colour that you want your pollen to be, some powder in with your semolina or ground rice, give it a good shake, and you've got your pollen. And that costs pennies rather than sending pounds on things. So bear in mind, it's an expensive hobby is this, so if there's anything that you can make yourself, make it yourself. That's why I make all my own flower paste as well rather than buying it, because it's cheaper for me to make it than it is to buy it. Right, so I need to put that to one side to dry. So with your first one with the just the stamens in the centre, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring all those up together, and the way that you do that is you need to tape them onto your wire. So if you start your tape off on your wire, find your sticky side, get it started, and then bring it up until you get that round the base of your stamens. like that. It's a little bit fiddle, just take your time with it and then tape down. So that's brought those stamens up together. So that's the first part. So what I'm going to do with that now is, because that's on a shorter wire, I'm just going to tape that onto a 26 gauge wire, so that'll make it a bit stronger. So if I start my tape off there, like that. I do this with most of the stamens where I make them myself, especially if you're doing things like hellebores and things like that, which you'll see on my channel. Tape down, like that. See what I mean about needing a big enough hole in your flower, because it can get quite thick here with your tape. Right, so the next thing to do now is to cut those shorter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my hairdresser bit here. So if you bring all your stamens up together, get it between your finger and your thumb, and cut some of that off. Then turn it round to the other side, so make sure you've got all your stamens an even length, like that. Then what you need to do then is, this is where you need your hairspray, and it needs to be extra strong hairspray. This is extra hold from Super Soft. I use various different kinds. Depends which one I can pick up, but I always pick up the strongest one I can find, because I want those stamens to be quite stiff. So just take that, if I just bring my camera up so you can see what I'm doing, I'm just going to take that away from the side of me and spray away from yourself, and spray onto your cotton. Then if you just get something with a pointed end, use that tool there, and then just open your stamens out a bit so they don't all stick together. You could do this after it's dried, but you might find it a bit harder to spread your stamens out if you do that. I'm just going to open them up a little bit like that. Put that to one side. So I'll come back to that in a bit. I'm just going to put that to one side to dry. Now the one with the centre in it, I've already got this on a wire, so I don't need to add a wire to this. So what you need to do is to pop that inside the centre. Now if you've done a hook on the top to put this on and it's a little bit offside, that's quite a good thing, because what you do is you put your cotton on the side where you've got a little bit more depth, so you get it in the centre, so it's a little easier to spread your stamens round the tape then. If I'm making myself clear there, just bear with me a second, I'll just open this up. Just cut that bit off. You get your wire and your centre together. You can always adjust them once you've started your tape on it, to pull them both down onto the tape. It's also a good idea as well if you can tape up a little bit on this to hold the stamens up. And then tape down. Again, it's a fiddly job to do, just take your time doing it. Don't try and rush. There we are. Doesn't matter about those being uneven, because we're going to cut those down. I'm going to cut those down to what they should have been on the other ones, because the other ones, as I say, I got them a bit high. I haven't done any buttercups for a long time. Last time I did them for a competition, so I still need that out. So what I'm going to do now is to get a tool, and I'm going to try and get these stamens to go round the centre. So if you can just sort of gradually even them out. Just like combing them really, just to get rid of any loose bits you've got a little bit loose in there, and try and get it all the way around. Doesn't matter if you don't get it perfect, because nothing's perfect in nature. If you look at the actual plants, you'll probably find cockeyed stamens and crooked petals and all sorts of things in them. No, that's not too bad. So what I can do now is I bring my fingers up now. I need to trim this off. So I'm just going to start on one side and just go around and take some off. Just try and keep it as even as you can. If they've moved around a bit, you can adjust it again to get it back the way you wanted it. When you do that, you might need to go in and trim it a little bit more. I think they need to be a little bit shorter. I'm just going to take a bit more off. These are as long as the ones that I've already done, and they were too long. So I think I've got one stuck up there. Just take your time until you've got them as you want them. There we are, that's a bit better. So I can get rid of all this now. That can go in the bin. And then I'm going to spray these as well. So again, to the side. Sometimes when you've spread them out a bit, you have to go in and give them another spray. So as I say, just take your time just to make sure that all the cotton's got the lacquer on it, and that will stiffen your... And I've got one there that's a bit long that wants just trimming off. Better. They just need spreading out a little bit more. This is one of the reasons why when you're doing these on cakes, you need to warn people that these are not edible. Although they're made from edible material, you have used things on them that are not edible, like the spray, because obviously that's going to go over the top of the centre. Right, so get that, rid of that out of the way. Put that to one side. Let's have a look at this, see if this one's dried yet. It hasn't dried totally, but I don't think I have got one that's already stiffened up. This is one I already had on one side that was done. This one's got the pollen on the edge of the petals, but I let it stiffen up before I did that. But I'm going to do this while it's still soft, just to save time. So I have some yellow pollen here. I have all sorts of different colours made up: brown, yellow, black, green, all the different ones, just in case you're going to do a flower. It depends on what flowers they are, because pollen's different colour in different flowers. So what I'm going to do is glue, just catch it on the edge of the cotton. Make sure you can see some glue on the edge of your cotton, just to make sure that that's got something for the pollen to stick to. Then into your pollen. And there we are, that's the centre of that done. Hang on, bring it back. Got my camera in a different place, haven't I? Right, so that needs to go to one side to dry. And then the one that I've just done with the centre, we'll do that one. You can be quite liberal with it, but if you've let your cotton dry, which I haven't done here, it's a bit easier to do. Then that goes into the pollen. There we are. So that's the edges of that done as well. Put that into the foam. I'll get rid of that. I'm just going to get rid of that out of the way because we don't need that yet. Right, so that's how to do your stamens. So the next part is the assembly part. So what I'm going to do here, first of all, I'm going to turn my board over, because if you've got one of these cell boards, or one of the makes that I like them, because a lot of people have copied them now. Just put that up there with your other pollen. I'm going to turn this over, and what I'm going to do is, if you've got one of these boards that got these Mexican hat holes, it's very rare that I use them. Because this is a tiny flower, this is ideal. So I'll just bring my camera down again so you can see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to use the largest hole here in this board. So I'm going to get some light green paste. So I'm going to do a couple of backs, because I've got those two centres that I've just done. So I'm doing two different kinds of Buttercup, flower wise. But as I say, there are a lot of different kinds, and there are various different colours in them as well apparently. They're not all yellow either. What the varieties are, I couldn't tell you. I just read up on them, and that's the information I came up with. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of white fat round there. Put your ball of paste in and squash it down into that hole, and then with your rolling pin roll it out like that, so it's quite thin. Then take that off and turn that over. I never cut out while the paste is in the hole, because if you do, you can end up being off centre. You want to see where your paste is going. So another small ball of paste into the hole and roll that out like that, and turn it over. Now the cutter that I'm going to use for cutting them out is a small Stephanotis cutter I'm going to use for the calyx. So just pop that over the centre, try and get it as central as you can, and cut that out, and do the same with the other one. Get out of the paste. I've lost a bit of paste there. See if I can get that out a bit. I think I might have to adjust this one a little bit. I don't think I've cut into it enough. Just getting into those little nooks and crannies in between the petals that you need to be careful with. Yeah, got it. Right. So once you've done that, then you need to thin your edges, which we didn't do with the other petals, but we're using the veining tool on it, so we didn't need to thin the petals on that one. This is one of the reasons why, if you can, invest in a set of these in different sizes, because you've got different, there should be another one there. Oh, that's my large one there, yeah. So I'm going to use the smallest ball tool out of that set. Plenty of these on eBay and places like that, or from your local sugar craft shop. Thin your edges. Just making sure I'm still on camera. I keep forgetting to look up and look at my camera, because I have to look up to see what my camera's filming. This is why sometimes, and I've been criticised for it, I've gone out of shot on some of my videos, and I do apologise, but not having a camera person to film what I'm doing two jobs at the same time, and it's very difficult to look at that and look at that. That's my excuse, I'm sticking to it. Right, so we've got one centre here, which is the one with the centre in it, and I have got some dried flowers somewhere when I find where they are. There's one there. Should be another one. Oh, there's one there. And one there. I'm going to use the most open one for this one, I think. So I'm just going to pop that into the centre like that. Into the wire. There we are, I've got it. And then pull that, when I get hold of it, up the wire. You don't need to add any glue to the base of this because the calyx is going to hold it in place. So bring that up to your stamens like that, and then get your calyx, wire into the centre of that, and pull that up the wire. And then before we get to the top, I'm just going to open my glue pot again and put a bit of glue on all the pieces of your calyx and bring that up underneath your flower, and just make sure that's nice and attached to your flower petals. And I've got it so it's in the middle of the petals, unlike a rose where we get the calyx in between the overlap of the petals. This is in the middle of the petals. So just pop that to one side, and then I'll get another centre. Where are we? Which one have we done there? Oh, that's the one with the centering. So we just want a basic plain centre in that one. So again, into the centre of your flower, pull that down up to the flower, and then calyx onto the wire. Like that. Pull that up. Before you get to the top, add your, I've just lost a petal, and I can fix that with this, hopefully. Bring that up to the centre there, and what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to get my finger in and just make sure that those pieces of the calyx are attached to the petals. And I can do the same thing with that one that's just broken off there. Oh, dropped it. Can't repair that one because I've dropped it on the floor. But there we are, you get the idea. So I'm going to put those to one side. I'm not going to use those because those are still soft. I have left one to colour. And I'm just going to do one of them. But before I do that, I'm going to show you how I made the leaves. Now, the cutter that I've used for the leaves, I'm going to find where I put it. Just get rid of that cotton. Into there. Oh, there it is. It's actually a miniature sea holly cutter, is this one. This one was from Cassie Brown, Passion for Cakes. So if you want to look her up, if you want to find this cutter. So I'm just going to get those off of there for the time being. I'm going to turn my board back over. I'm just going to get a small, I'm only going to do one leaf because I've already got a load of leaves cut and coloured. So I'm going to do this one and then I'm going to colour it while it's still soft. Because being small leaves, sometimes you can get away with it. And I'll get my ridge tool, go up the centre of the paste like that. Get your cutter on, line it up with your ridge. It's a bit difficult with this because with it being so fine. Cut that out. There we are. So that's the cutter, the leaf for that. Get rid of that paste. And I've used a 28 gauge wire, which is what I generally use for most of my leaves. See if I've got a spare one on here somewhere. Should have one. I've just dropped one down. There's one. Lay it between your finger, first finger and your thumb. Twist into the end of the paste and then just feel it go up your paste, up the centre, like that. I haven't gone too far up because with this being thin, it can damage it if I do go too far with that. and they're only small, so they're a bit better than bigger leaves. You do need to go a lot higher up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get that onto my board, and then with the larger side of the small ball tool, I'm just going to go up the leaf like that and thin it up the centre, because it's doing the sides as well as the middle is that. Then turn it over onto the opposite side, and then with my Dresden tool, wherever it's gone, was here, had it out earlier, so oh, there it is, hiding underneath my label. And with the narrow end of the Dresden tool, all I'm going to do is go down the centre and off each of the side petals, keeping it in the centre. This is the way we used to have to do leaves before we had all these leaf veiners, because when I first started we didn't have all the stuff that we have now. A lot of this thing has come on over the last 30 years or so, well, more than 30 years. Then just shape that a little bit. Pick something, a hair up from somewhere there, don't know where that's come from, and then you can put that to one side to dry. So I'll just get rid of that. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to come on to the colouring. Now what I've done here, I've got some sunflower yellow powder, and I've mixed some golden pearl luster dust in with it, hopefully to give it a bit of shine. I found that it wasn't shine. I did get a shine on it when I steamed it, but I found that I needed a bit more of a shine. So what I'll do after that then is I will glaze the petals with some leaf glaze. So I'll start off by getting the colour on. Where's my brush that I used? There it is. So I'm using quite a fine brush for this. And if you just start by getting plenty of powder on your brush and giving it a good covering. I usually say brush it on and brush it off, but I found with this you do need to put it on quite thickly. You can blow it off because it's not going to affect anything else. It's not like dusting the edge of petals where you need to be careful how much you've got on your brush, because with this going all over the petals you're not going to get spots of it going where it shouldn't be. Because I've mixed a luster dust in with it, you will get a bit of a shine on it when you dust it. Then I'm going to go to the back and I'm just going to bring it over the back a little bit on the edges. Not going to go all the way down, because generally most, particularly leaves and that, tend to be lighter on the back than they are on the front. It's just to blend it so that it doesn't look as though you've just sort of drawn a line round something. Right, so that's that. So what you can do next, I'm just going to switch my steamer on so that I can steam this, to show you what effect we get with steaming. And then I'll put that to one side, and oh, we can do the back on it as well. I haven't done the back. First of all, I need to dust the back. I've got some ginkgo green here that I've used for doing the calyx. Better do that before I steam it. Would help, then I don't have to steam it again, do I? But it'd be difficult to, if I did steam it and then wanted to put the colour on, it wouldn't take the colour. Just time that right, so that can go into the steam. Whoops, sorry, I'm misting up the screen. I hope I haven't steamed you out. I'll come back to that in a minute. Oh, screen's clearing now. So I have got a little bit of a shine on it, so I'm just going to put that to one side while I come back to the leaf that I made here. And while I've got the green, I'm going to use the same green on the leaves. and then just turn it over and just dust over the back. Now that's picked some of the lustre up as that. I'm not using this one anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then just shape your leaf a bit. I picked some gold up there out of that golden pearl. Now if I wanted gold on it, it wouldn't have gone on. And like I said before, I've said it many a time, if I do something wrong, I don't cut it out. But when that's dried, I can always overdust it anyway again, just to make sure that I've got the colour right on that. So, which is that one that I've just put on there? This one. That's the one. So what I'm going to do with this now is I'm going to get some glaze. I should have a brush here somewhere that I've used. Let's see what I've done with it. I put it back in there. Yes, I did. I'm using quite a small brush for this. You don't want anything big to get in here, because with your petals being quite small, you need to get in down in between your stamens and just go in with the colour, with the glaze, to make your leaf shiny. I'm going off camera again, aren't I? Get down in between, behind your stamens, and just dust it over with the glaze. Just bring the camera up a little bit more so you can see what I'm doing. This paste that I'm using takes quite a while to do, even though I did some of these flowers a few days ago. They've still got a little bit of flex in them as well, so I can still move them very slightly to get them where I want them to go. Right, so that's that done. Put that to one side to dry. And also as well, you can glaze your leaves. Where's it gone? That's that one. This is a soft one that I've done, so now I might as well glaze this one while I'm at it. I'm not putting a lot of glaze on it because they're not particularly shiny, just enough to take the dullness off the leaf. Now when you've done that, always make sure that you clean your brushes out when you've done glazing, because otherwise your brush will, when it dries, it'll go stiff and you want to be able to use them again. I look after my brushes. Some of these I've had for donkey's years, you know, so you need to be able to keep them, especially if you spend a lot of money on them. Right, so we'll just get rid of that out of the way. I've done too much colour there. What I'd done was I'd got too much lustering with the yellow in a pot, and ended up with it being too light, so then I had to do another lot. So that's why I ended up with a lot of colour on there. I'm just going to cover my board up while I'm doing this, just in case I drop any colour on. So I've got all my flowers done. Now those are the ones with the, that's the other one. Now you can see how these have dried, how shiny. I hope you can see that on camera. I don't know whether you can see that or not, but they are quite shiny. Are those? They're the ones that I've glazed with the leaf glaze. They're all that one. That's that one. That's that one. Now you could do some buds if you wanted to. Again, I would do them in the yellow. I haven't. I've done them all open, all of my flowers. So one of those. Right, so I've got more on that. I've only got 4 on that, and I've got a load on this one. So I'm just going to put these together. I'm just going to sort out some leaves to go with them before I start assembling. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leaves there. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, and we've got some spare ones. We'll put one on that and then put the other 2 on there. Whenever you're putting anything like this together, especially when they're small flowers, it's a good idea to tape them onto another wire, a stronger wire. So I'm going to use a 24 gauge wire for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get one 24 gauge wire out, and I'm going to cut that in half. So I'm going to use one for each different variety of the buttercups. Where's that just gone? Well, that's one of the wires. What have we done with the other one? Hiding somewhere. Never mind. Right, so I want some tape. See if I've got enough cut here. Oh, might have to cut some more. No, I have got enough there. So I'm going to start off by starting the tape off on the top of this wire. You need to find out which is your sticky side, so just pull it and press it with your fingers, nip that together and start that going like that. So I'm going to start off with, the flowers come lower down with buttercups, they seem to grow higher up, so I'm going to leave quite a bit of the stem on these. Oops, using 2. I've got a different variety there that goes in there. I wasn't looking when I put those together. Once you get going, you can start going at speed with them. I think I might put a few leaves in between here just to add some in. These are a bit small for what the real leaves are like, so I'm just going to bring that tape up there for that one. And I'm going to put another leaf in at the other side. Thing is with sugarcraft, you can use artistic license with things like this. You don't need to be that realistic, because when people look at it, they're fascinated with whatever flower it is that you're doing. They're not bothered whether the details are correct or not, unless they're botanists, of course. If you get a botanist, then I remember once doing a wedding cake for a lady that came to me. It turns out she taught sugarcraft. So I'm thinking that put me under pressure, because it was all covered in brush embroidery. Beautiful cake. Really chuffed when it went with it when I'd done it. But I had a cake dummy on show with it on. So I'm going to put some leaves in just underneath that. We've got all those, yeah. Those are all the same type. Don't worry about spreading them out until you've got everything in. Get all your bits and pieces in first, then you can worry about how they're going to go. It's very difficult on the pictures that I saw to see how the leaves went, because it was a photographer's site and most of the photography is aimed at the actual flower rather than the foliage. So if I'm not being botanically correct, I apologise. Put another leaf in there. And tape down to the bottom. So once you've done that, then you can start opening everything out. So that's one stem of Buttercups. So we'll just pop that to one side and we'll come on to the other one. I don't know what I've done with my wire. It must be, oh, see, it's hiding under my board. That's where it got it. It rolled under there. I knew it couldn't be far away. So again, start your tape off at the top of your wire. Oops, wrong side. You can always tell if you've got the wrong side of the tape, because when you try to nip it round and it sticks to your other finger, you know you're wrong. I haven't got any colour on it. That's the one I haven't, the last one I did. They more or less go together the same way. There's no difference in the way that the flowers grow, really. It's just the different varieties of Buttercup. And as I say, until I started researching it, I didn't even know that there were different varieties. To me, a Buttercup was a Buttercup. But the one thing that you learn in this job is that the teacher that I had when I first started, Maureen, bless her heart, I don't know whether she's still with us or not, I haven't heard from her in years, she said that you would never look at a flower the same way again, because you'd be taking it apart to dissect it to see how it goes together. And she was right, actually, because sometimes it's a good idea, if you're doing something new and you haven't done it before, if you can get hold of the real thing, either inspect it very closely or take it apart to see how it went together and work out from there how the flower should go. So I'm going to do this one with all the leaves lower down. I haven't got as many leaves to put in this one because it hasn't got as many flowers on it, on this stem. Actually, it doesn't look that bad according to my recollection of the pictures that I saw. Don't forget to pull your wires in if you want the leaves to stay put. Pull your wires down. Make sure you've got them in really tight. So then when you put them in place, they're not going to move around. One of the biggest complaints from my students was, my leaves are swinging around, they won't stay in one place. Well, get your wires tighter. Another thing I need to point out as well, because I've seen on some sites on Facebook, I know a lot of you go on there, people sticking the wires in the cakes with the flowers on rather than putting them in a posy pick or something. Never ever stick the wires in a cake. I know there's a new product on the market, but I wouldn't trust it to dip your wires in before you put it in. Always tape your leaves together, your flowers together, or your sprays or whatever else it is you're putting on your cake, and then put a posy pick into your cake. They come in different sizes, and if they're a bit loose in the posy pick, then just put some sugar paste in it to stick your stems in to make sure they stay put. But never ever put the wires into your cake. That is bad hygiene. You could poison somebody, because wires are metal, and depending on how long the cake's done in advance, you don't know how long it's going to be stood there before people eat it. So it's not a good idea to stick wires in your cake, because they can go rusty because you've got moisture in the cake. So there we are, that's two varieties of Buttercups. I'll just bring it a bit further forward. So you've got the ones with the daisy centre. The centres on the Buttercups vary from light green like I've done to a yellow, so it depends on which way you want to do it. But there are yellow centres as well as the green centres. And then of course you've got the ones with they've just got the stamens in the centre. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to come back and see me soon. If you're not already following me, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It's free to subscribe, and hit the like button as well. I like to see that. And if you've got any comments about anything or any questions about anything, then put them in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I am getting a few more people leaving me comments now, so please keep it up, and I like to hear from people and their experiences. If you've done it, get back and tell me how you went on with it. You know, it's always a good thing to find out how people have got on with my videos and how helpful they've been. So anyway, that's the end of my video, so take care, stay safe, and see you soon.